Good morning or good afternoon, whichever the case is in the place where you are located. I'm in Wyoming, so it's morning here. This is business engagement in supporting the education pipeline. It is the 6th in our series. Our series is from the Youth and Adult Career Pathways and the Microgroup series, and I am very happy to have you here. My name's Lynn Vella. I'm the Career Technical Education Director in Campbell County, Wyoming, Gillette, Wyoming, and I am actually employed by what's called the Board of Cooperative Higher Education Services. It's a board that services both the community college and the school district, so we have a wonderful partnership between post-secondary and secondary education here, and I'll be talking a bit about that. I'm the SME for this month's topic. Previously, I've been a keynote speaker and a workshop presenter, and I write grant proposals. I've taught at the junior high, middle school, senior high, and university level. And right now I am pretty much involved in some career academies. We're starting career academies here. And I will tell you a little bit about where we are, because it makes a difference where you are as to the kinds of partnerships that you have formed and that you have that are necessary in your area. We have 18 coal mines that are strip mines that are right around this area. Probably the farthest one south is about 50 miles. I would say probably a good third to a half of the people who live in Gillette are either mine workers, or they are somehow connected to the mine, either in a service area or as an engineer or a heavy equipment operator or something like that. So we also have a lot of natural resources as far as natural gas is concerned, methane, and so we also have all those services that actually support natural resources here. We do have some agriculture. It is a little bit expensive to run an agriculture production kind of ranch now, but we do still have a few ranches around. We have probably about 8,000 students in our school district. 1,300 students in the high school, 700 students in each of 2 junior highs. So we work with the junior high, senior high, and the college level. We are working particularly hard right now in putting together our 4th career academy, which is an academy in health science, human service. We also have transportation, logistics, and distribution. We have a career academy in hospitality and tourism, and we have one in energy and engineering. So you can see that the partnerships that we have here pretty much have to be devoted to things that have to do with our local industry, with our regional industry, and some with our state industry. So as I'm welcoming you to this particular webinar, I just want to go over a couple of the topics that we're going to discuss today. It's interesting to me the reasons that people form partnerships And there are a lot of different reasons that people do that, but it's pretty tough right now to try to do any kind of education, and specifically career technical education, when you don't have a lot of industry and business partners. So we really think that that is a necessary evil right now. Or not a necessary evil, but something that's very necessary. Certainly is nothing evil about it. What types of partnerships are appropriate? What is the responsibility of the school district, the community college, when you have a partnership? How does your partnership benefit the businesses, and how do you go about building relationships with businesses? And one of the things that you very much need to keep in mind is, if you are in your office or you are in your classroom, you're probably not out building those relationships. So you can't do it when you're sitting in your office. A few of the business partnerships that you might have include a lot of things like perhaps individual advisory committees that are career specific. And we've been very fortunate to have an animation advisory committee, which is actually in California, which seems a little bit crazy for us to have advisory committee that's several states away from us. But there's a company called Acme Animation, and they are affiliated with DreamWorks and Pixar and Sony and Disney and Warner Brothers. So when our students are working on their animation projects, they can actually ask for help from either Acme, or after they have had a certain number of students from other places around the country look at their work, and they have a certain number of credits built up, then they can get help from people who are affiliated with those industries, with Sony or Warner Brothers or whatever. We also have a lot of business partnerships. We have culinary, engineering, health science, early childhood. All of those are specific and are they're not required by any kind of state or local industry, or grant, but they're so helpful to the group that we try to encourage everybody to have an advisory committee. So, for instance, if I have a tech ed department, they might have 3 or 4 different partnerships built up, because they've got machining, they've got welding, they have construction, they have different areas within that department, and the same advisory committee doesn't work for all of them. So then you have required local or state grants, and the one that I'm the most concerned with is the federal grant for Perkins. So with my federal grant, excuse me, with my federal grant, I have an advisory committee that has been in place for actually many years. And although some of the members change occasionally because people get new jobs and stuff like that, we still have pretty much the same group of people that I've had for maybe about 10 years. The Perkins Partnership Advisory Committee includes people like engineers, people from business and industry, people from social services. Be sure that when you have an advisory committee like a federal one, that you have students on it, that you have teachers, administrators, and so forth. And I had something interesting happen this past weekend. I work very closely with the folks from the community college, and the dean of the Career Technical Education department asked me if we could maybe share our Perkins Advisory Committee, because I already have post-secondary people on the committee, and I have the same makeup of the committee that he needs on his board. So all we're going to do is just rename it. instead of it's being Perkins Secondary Advisory Committee, it's going to be Perkins Secondary and Post-Secondary Advisory Committee. So we will both use the same committee, and that's another way to have this partnership where everybody reaps the benefits of it. We have, with our career academies, I've already mentioned that we have specific advisory committees for each one of those, and it's really fun to have the support of the businesses and industries around here because, for instance, with the Energy and Engineering Academy, we have lots of engineers that will come in and do different kinds of demonstrations and projects with the students. We try to do as much project-based learning as we can. And so they will come in and work with the students in the engineering. We use Project Lead the Way as our base curriculum for engineering, and the engineers around will come in and help with a lot of different kinds of things. We have summer academies for girls, and they'll help with that. There'll be teachers, there'll be judges and that sort of thing. For our hospitality and tourism career academy, we take our students to the post-secondary area, to the tech center, and we have guest chefs come in. So these will be people that are on the advisory committee, but they will come in and do guest cooking with our students. For instance, we have an advisory committee member who owns a barbecue place, and so he brings all the ingredients, and he comes in and has the students have a competition to make the best barbecue sauce. And so they cook some wings and they cook some ribs, and then they try each other's barbecue sauce and have a little contest with that. Our new academy is the Health Sciences Academy, and before we really got started with that, we needed to have a lot of people come in and talk to us about how they would perceive themselves being involved. So we had a couple of lunches for them, and we included people like the director of Healthy Schools program, the director of the nursing school, a couple of people from the hospital. We had a physical therapist, we had a dentist, we had an eye doctor, and we just had a lot of people from the health and medicine community. Oh, we had a veterinarian. And they all talked about how they could help us with a new academy and how they could be involved with that academy. So within the academies, we have certain things that we do, and it's not necessarily just in the academies, but for all of our students. The first that we do is job shadowing, which is kind of a career exploration program. That's on a short-term kind of duration. The second is mentorship, and the third is internships. The fourth is cooperative education, and the fifth is youth apprenticeships, and I'm going to talk about each of those. And basically what I'm going to be talking about are activities and events and things that we have done with partnerships that have come from my own experience. So this is very much local, but we also we see these things throughout the whole state. So the first one is job shadowing, and one of the things I might tell you about each one of these is that as you do this, as you are working with any of your partnerships, it is a really good idea to keep a database, because that is so helpful for if you get new teachers or if you get new academy directors or whomever. But when they're looking for people in the community that would like to be a part of the school system or a part of the activities that the school system does, it's really nice to have this database. So in job shadowing, with our career academies, we have a course that's called Academy 1. That is a required course for all of our students who are enrolled in an academy. And within that, one of the requisites is a job shadowing, 1 or 2 job shadowing experiences. And in the job shadowing, the students just go out, usually for a day, and follow a mentor person around and find out. This is kind of their first attempt at finding out whether they really like what this is, like this kind of job, like the work environment, know what the skills are required might be, and so forth. That's for the academy, but we also have job shadowing in many of our classes. We do have a 9th grade class called Cruising to Careers, and within that class, that's a class that does a lot of mock interviews, and so they're asking business people to come in and help with the mock interviews. They do a lot of job shadowing, they take a lot of field trips, and they are out in the community a lot of the time. Mentorship is the second required course for any student who is in our Career Academy, but we also, again, have mentorship for other students. So in a mentorship program, the way we do it here is that the students have to go out and find their own mentor. So if they're interested in engineering, for instance, they go to an engineering firm and see if they can do a mentorship there. And so they're there for a semester. Now, they only go during their class period. We're on block scheduling, so we have a 90-minute class period. And by the time the students are juniors, they're pretty much all driving, so they can drive to their experience. And they will be in that particular experience for 1 semester. Once a month, they go back into their classroom and talk about what they're learning, if they're having any problems, do they like it, do they not like it, do they want to try something different. They need to go to, if they're going to do a 2nd semester of mentorship, then they need to go to a different place, or at least if they're someplace like the hospital, they can go to, say, a mentorship in the neonatal department, and then they could, the 2nd semester, they could go with a surgeon or an anesthesiologist or someone else within the hospital setting. The other students, the ones that are not in a career academy, are actually, we have probably about 200 students who are doing mentorships. It is, for those students, it is 1 semester long. It's supervised by a business teacher, and the students have to be, there are only a couple of things. They have to be able to drive, and they have to have a 2.5 grade point average. Other than that, there's not a lot that of criteria that they have to be enrolled in any particular class or anything like that. They're just part of this whole mentorship program. So it is for both Career Academy students, and it is for our general population. However, it is mostly CTE students that do mentorships. And one other thing about this is that we probably have at least, well, we have about 35,000 people in the city, and we probably have at least 400 places that have been involved with mentorships and mentorship programs. So, you know, that's a lot of businesses, and those people all need to be kept on a database so that you can use them over and over. The students really like to be able to look at different places where they can go. Cooperative education is not a required course. Cooperative education is a course that is in a lot of schools has actually done away with cooperative education. Our cooperative education is in business, and so the students take a course called office skills in the morning, and then they work in the afternoon. They go to places like banks, law offices, We have some students here in the HR department at the school district. There are students who go to the hospital who work, but these are paid positions, and these students are actually students who want to be in some kind of an entrepreneurship program or become an entrepreneur when they get out of school, or they want to be an accountant, or they want to be an administrative assistant, or have some affiliation with the business world. So this is another group of people, and we have a wonderful advisory committee that works with this, with the business department, and those people are like people who work for the city, an attorney, a person who is a stockbroker. We have a lot of different people who are on this particular partnership. The third required course for the Career Academy students is an internship. And so when our students get to be seniors and they're still in the Career Academy, then they do a regular internship. Now the Academy program, the internship program, and the mentorship program are all actual classes that the students have to register for. So they all have a teacher or supervisor, and they are all registered in these classes and get credit for them. So the internship, we're working at getting the internships for pay. That's a little harder because there are a lot of people that are not really willing to take the interns and also pay them. They feel like it's more of a training experience, so they don't want to have to pay the students. With the office occupations, there's no problem with that. They've always paid them. But with the internship program, it's pretty new. We do have a few internships in welding and some in machining, but most of the internships are part of the Academy program. There was an article just the other day that showed up on one of the sites that I have, which is a site from ACTE, from Business and Industry, and it says, "Study spotlights trends in internships for high school students." Nearly half of the high school students surveyed for a recent study said they are taking part in internships. Some say the skills students learn during these assignments exceed basic job skills and can encompass strategic and organizational thinking. They begin to know who they are, what their abilities are, and they begin to believe in those abilities, said a developmental psychologist, Marilyn Price Mitchell, so that they can go out and meet whatever goals they set. So I was happy to see that. There's so much research going on right now about work-based learning and getting students into work-based learning that you can Google a lot of different programs or just Google work-based learning and you'll find all kinds of research. The next opportunity that we have for our students is a youth apprenticeship program. This generally has more to do with the more technical end, more like the students that are in electrical, students that are in digital electronics, students that are in welding, machining, and a few students in agriculture, but mostly they're in the tech ed area. But the students do go out. They don't have to be 18 years old to be in a youth apprenticeship. But you have to have recognition from the state apprenticeship board in order to do this. We don't have a lot of students that do it. This is not a big union state, and so we don't have a lot of students in the youth apprenticeship program, but we do have a few. But they have to be one-on-one with their mentor or their sponsor, and so sometimes the businesses are a little reluctant to take the students before they're 18 years old. So There are not a lot of them, but like I say, we do have a few. And some of them are able to receive a certificate of some kind by the time they get finished with their youth apprenticeship. Generally, it just leads into something in a regular apprenticeship, but one of the good things about that is that often the sponsor is then going to help the student with their actual apprenticeship. Some of the benefits of the youth apprenticeship program are that the students will actually get some on-the-job training. They'll be learning from a professional. They may decide that they don't like this job. And, you know, we've had students that have gone, this isn't necessarily an apprenticeship program, but we've had students that have gone to the hospital and have decided that they don't want to be around sick people, or they don't like blood or whatever. But this, getting students into some kind of work-based learning and partnering with like the hospital or whomever is a good chance for students to see what they like and what they don't like. It's also a great place for students to figure out that their academic skills are important. And one of the things that we stress with all of our partners, our business and industry folks, is that these students need to be good communicators. They need to have good academic skills in math, English, maybe science, depending on what their career goal is. But we want to make sure that students know how important it is to keep their grades up. It could be a possible job opportunity for the kids, at least in the summertime. Lots of times they have a chance to work with the businesses. And then those employers are often the best support that these students can have, because the employers can recommend them to other businesses, to their suppliers, and all that kind of stuff. So it's nice to have an employer that's sort of in your corner. And then it's also a really good thing to have all these partnerships with sort of the real world, because then students start to make that connection that, okay, this is what I'm learning in school, and it's very important that I learn this because I'm going to need this when I go out and go to work. So we really appreciate all of our business and industry folks, because they are really helping us to make students understand how important the learning that they do at school is. As far as the benefits for the school, having business and industry partners, I feel like we have so many resources to use for the classroom. Our teachers can ask people from business and industry to come in and talk about their career. They can provide field trip sites. They can do all kinds of things. The teachers, sometimes the teachers have not ever been in a work experience. They've been in elementary school, then they were in junior high, then they were in high school and the university or college or whatever, and then they started teaching. And so they really did not have a chance to spend any time in the field. So it's very important that they have people come in who are skilled craftspeople and talk to the students or talk to the teachers as trainers, and let the students and teachers know what is necessary to keep up to date in the particular industry that's represented there. And it's really, you know, building those partnerships with business and industry is so important, because you're going to be asking for help all the time. I think particularly in CTE, you're asking for help a lot of the time. One of the things that we do here, we have what we call the BIG-E Roundtables. We do this every other year, and it's for the teachers. The whole reason for it, well, no, there are several reasons. The main reason that we do it is to make sure that our curriculum is where it needs to be to address the needs of our business and industries around our local area and our state. So BIG-E stands for Business, Industry, Government, and Education. And how we do this is we find a venue that's big enough for 16 tables. So sometimes it's a little tough to find a place that's big enough, but now our new tech center pretty much holds all of us. We have one table for each of the 16 career clusters from the U.S. Department of Education. So, for instance, we'll have a table that is for art, and at that table we will have, say, somebody from the theater, somebody who is an artist, maybe somebody that does, in our case, it's Gillette Public Access. It's our local TV station. We could have an agriculture table that has an environmentalist, a rancher, an extension agent. We could have a table for law and have the sheriff and an attorney and maybe a fire chief. The construction table might have contractors or architects or draftspersons, all these things. Anyway, we have 3 or 4, hopefully. I always invite 4, but hopefully we'll get 3 business or industry people to sit at each of these tables. I have 45 CTE teachers, so they send me a list of the 3 tables that they would like to visit, the 3 tables that have the most to do with their specific curriculum. So then I schedule them. We have 3 sessions, and I schedule them so that they can visit 3 tables, and they can talk to the people from business and industry about their curriculum. One of the things besides the curriculum that is so good about this is that it not only gets us to be very aware of what we need to do to address the needs of the local workforce, but it also brings teachers and business and industry people together to so that they get to know each other and to network, and also to show people from outside what we actually do in school. Because a lot of the people that we bring in still think that school is what it was like when they were in school. So it's important that we have that interaction between the business and industry people and the teachers. Now, each of those tables is facilitated by a student, and the students are generally chosen by the CTE teachers, and generally they are students who are involved in a CTSO, Career Technical Education Student Organization, like DECA, FBLA, FFA, FCCLA, all those kinds of things. So the students are the facilitators. I try to get all my advisory board members who are from business and industry, I try to get them to come to be one of the business people at the table. And they, one of the things I should tell you about these advisory committees is you need to keep them busy. You should give them something to do. If you only have advisory committees and those people only come to meetings, you probably won't have them very long. But if you bring them in and you give them things to do so that they feel that they are a part of the activities and they're a part of what goes on with students, then they will probably keep coming back. So I always use those people as well. I use the individual Career Academy students to do all the organizational work. They get everything all set up, they set up the room, they make sure the right name tags are on the tables, and they act as MCs. So the students who are the facilitators will then, they ask the questions, and they also take notes, and at the end of the time, it's always in a morning, we have the whole morning for it. At the end of the time, they will report out and tell what they learned and what some of the most outstanding things were from each of these areas. So some of the questions that they ask the employers and people from business and industry are, what skills do you require of an entry-level employee? What are the most important skills related to your occupation? What do you view business industry role in education? And then they always have a sheet where people can sign up to be a mentor, a field trip site person, a career fair speaker, and so forth. So we get the students involved as well as the teachers and the business and industry folks. We either have breakfast for them or we have lunch for them, and then I meet with the CTE teachers in the afternoon, and we talk about, what did you learn? What did you learn from business and industry folks? What do we need to do with our curriculum? For instance, do we need to be using some different kind of program? I know one of the things that I've heard several times is that our engineers are telling us that they're using SolidWorks and they're not using Autodesk, and just different things like that. So it's important that we pay attention to what they have to say, and we have to show them that we actually take what they are telling us to heart and we make changes dependent on what they've told us, because if you just blow them off, then they're not going to do it again. So some of the other involvement that we have from business and industry, our partnerships and involvement are that they're classroom, and we have a sophomore campus and 11th and 12th grade campus. So for our sophomore campus, we have a career fair, and we have many speakers from the business and industry come in, probably about 40 to 50 each year. The whole school is a career fair. And so every class, every classroom, every teacher is involved with somebody in their class talking about their career. So it's been a huge hit. We used to do it every other year. We used to do it on the opposite year of the BIG-E Roundtables, but we don't do that anymore because then we would leave sophomores out that didn't get to do it one year. So the counselors have asked us if we could do the career fair every year. This past weekend was the Skills USA Fab Tech contest and diesel contest here at our community college, and it was an amazing event, and it was a very outstanding indication of how business and industry is totally involved with our students and our programs. Because it was fabrication technology or welding, and it was diesel, we had people from, we think we had about 50 different industries who were represented. And they were, for instance, for welding, we had Lincoln Electric, Miller and Victor welders. We had Snap-on Tools, 3M, Pacific Steel, DeWalt, Hobart Welding. We had all these different people who had come in to donate things. And that reminds me, one of the things that you probably should not ask of your advisory committee people is the first thing you want to do is not ask for money. You can ask for prizes, you can ask for help, ask for a lot of things, but don't be known as a person that always comes to industry folks for money. So anyway, these people were judges. One of the things that I was very impressed with was that a couple of guys from one of our local mines came in and cut all the metal for the fabrication, their project. And it took them a whole day before the contest started, so they were working all day on this activity. They were judges. They were organizers. We had people watching for safety violations, that kind of thing. And then we had a donated lunch for all the competitors. We also had a donated dinner for the competitors. And then the first, second, and third places, either team or individual, got thousands of dollars worth of donated items, like they got welding hoods and they got all kinds of tool sets, and they got, and the young man who won the high school diesel contest got a beautifully engraved torque wrench, which I'm sure will never be used on a truck. But anyway, this is a wonderful way to get business and industry involved, and they love working on competitions. We have our FFA and our FBLA contests going on right now. Next week is Skills USA, and the amount of people that it takes to run one of those state contests is amazing. And having those relationships built with your business and industry people is of utmost importance. So some other ways that we use our business and industry folks is guest chefs, guest artists, trainers, workshop presenters. The Northeast Wyoming Contractors Association actually works as the advisory committee for our construction classes, and they donated the seed money for us to start building a house. And Pacific Steel put in the girders that you build the house on, because it's right out in the parking lot right outside of the construction area. And the people from Northwest contractors help. They come in and show the students how maybe to do, how to put in windows, or how to frame, or all different kinds of skills. But then we build the shell of the house. It's not finished on the inside, but the shell is there, and then it is auctioned off in the spring, and the money that's made from the sale of the house then goes back into the program. So they are with us, with our construction folks, every step of the way. They help us with our school-based enterprises, especially our Cafe Latte, which is a junior high program for students to have a baking business. And then we also have people out each year, particularly if I can get a grant to do this, but it's for summer positions for teachers at a variety of sites, so that they have a chance to learn what's happening in the what we often call the real world, so that they have a chance to work either in their area. I used to do it just for CTE teachers, but now I have academic teachers that ask to do it all the time, so it's kind of a fun thing for them to do. But they have specific things that they have to do. They have to keep a journal, and they have to do a project, and they have to be able to teach a lesson when they get back from what they've learned. And so it's not all just fun. It's something that they actually learn. And usually I apply for them to get college credit for it, so that helps a little bit too. There's a report called, it's a CORD report. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with CORD, and Debbie Mills did one of the previous webinars. In fact, I think she did the first one, which was kind of along the same lines as this one. But CORD did a report. CORD stands for the Center for Occupational Research and Development. They did a study called Engaging Employers to Support Adult Career Pathways. And they say the benefits of partnering are employers can provide information on industry needs in the region. Employers can help design programs of study. Employers can provide worksite and other work-based learning experience for students. Employers can provide and or support industry certificates. And employers can leverage connections to their suppliers and other businesses. So I didn't know, I did want to tell you that if you want to access these, they are on, the previous webinars are on the link site. You go to the link site and it will be on a YouTube. So it's possible to get the previous webinars as well. One of the first things that you may hear is, okay, so what's in it for us? Generally, I don't hear that because our employers are so ready to help, but they do sometimes want to know what is going to be their return on investment. And one of the tools that is going to be available to you has a list of this so that you can take a look at that if you want to. But some of the benefits to the employers are more productive employees who are ready to go to work, lower employee turnover, better pre-employment evaluation. In other words, the students are ready to go to work and the industry folks already know them. Improved high school and college curricula because they've helped with that. Lower recruiting and training costs, hopefully higher morale, and improved community service. In other words, we've got to get those students to think about how they're going to give back. And one of the things that they talked about at the Diesel and Welding Skills USA contest that they had last week was, or last weekend, was you students are really benefiting from all of this that have been things that have been donated, not only time and energy, but also material things. So you have benefited from the employers and the industries around here. It's going to be your turn to give back. When you get out into the workforce, be sure that you think about these things and know that you need to be ready to give back as well. And some basic reasons for business to be involved in education is business is education's largest consumer, of course. Business and industry personnel have expertise that needs to be incorporated into the school system. You know, it's really, really important to have those people in here, or we would just keep doing the same thing that we've always done in the past. Business and education need to develop a mutual understanding of what each other does, and the success of students depends on the involvement of all the partners, not just their school partners, but all those outside partners, including their parents. What they're telling us is that there are three main attributes that all employers want in their employees, and this doesn't seem to matter which of the advisory committees we're talking about, or if it's at a CTSO competition or whatever. The employers tell us the same thing. They want employees who adapt rapidly to changing technologies, and I think our students are probably better at that than the adults are. They need to be able to work with teams, and they need to be developing leadership qualities, and that's why we think that CTSOs are so important, because this is one of the places that helps our students to develop their leadership qualities. The profile of an employee wanted by industry, they want them to know all about the industry, all aspects. So this is one reason that it's really a good thing to get our students out into the industry, into some kind of work-based or worksite learning, because then they can see what goes on in all areas. A profound understanding and commitment to teamwork and ethical standards, which is very important. Curiosity and a desire for lifelong learning, flexibility and adaptability, strong communication skills, the ability to think critically and creatively. And almost any industry or business person will tell you the same thing. These are the things that we look for in our students and our employees. One of the most effective methods for students to learn and practice these skills is through work-based or worksite learning with a strong industry mentor, instructor, or trainer. And research has shown that enrollment in some type of work-based hands-on learning helps to keep students in school and in graduation completion. I have an article that was sent to us by the state directors of career and technical education. It talks about the Education Committee from Congress, the House Education Committee on Workforce had a meeting in Las Vegas on the 18th of March. There were 4 people from the House of Representatives that attended this meeting. It was actually hearings and testimony, and it was interesting to me what the final little paragraph was from the research that they sent. It says, at the hearing's conclusion, Congressman Heck, who is from Nevada, summed up the discussion nicely, saying, I think one of the resounding themes we heard today is partnerships. It's partnerships amongst the secondary and post-secondary institutions, as well as private partners and employers. These things are all critical. I think we see that there is a very high return on investment for career and technical education, as well as the follow-on effects for economic development. And there are many, many articles now being written about the economy and the importance of career and technical education in the economy. There are some things that schools have to do in order to make sure that the partnerships and the relationships with the partnerships continue. The primary focus has to be on the student. We have to be very careful that we don't place students in an occupation where they can either get hurt, or if they are with a mentor that doesn't pay much attention to them, or that makes them do things like sweep the floor and maybe do filing the whole time that they're there. They need to be learning a lot of different kinds of skills. The school needs to be flexible enough to equip the students with strong foundation skills. Those academic areas are very important. The school needs to be honest in demonstrating how it can respond to the training needs of employers. And if we need to put in a digital electronics class, we need to be able to do that right away. We don't need to take years to get all those gears to working. And then we also need to be very realistic about our commitment to reflect real-world work. And it is a stretch to try to get all teachers to talk about the real world, but they're starting to do it. So math teachers and English teachers are telling students, this is where you're going to use this when you go out into the real world and you go to work. More roles for the education partner. Be involved in the total community so the students see this. Open to active involvement from business. Don't ever tell a business person that wants to come into your classroom, don't ever tell them no, that you don't have time, that you have too many tests to give or whatever, unless it's some outlier that you really ought not to have in your classroom. But it's not a good thing to turn business and industry down. Establish very positive relationships with parents who are often the same people. They could be the business people as well, or be from local industry. There are a couple of quotes here that you can read. By the way, this the tools and the presentation will be up on the website tomorrow, but the actual video webinar will be available in 7 to 10 days. So there are these couple of quotations, and here's something that is very, very important. You need to show appreciation for your business leaders' contributions. You need to have thank you notes in the newspaper. You need possibly to have a lunch or a dinner where you talk about how important they are to you. Have some kind of an event. Send thank you notes and get your students to send thank you notes. Anytime you have people involved in partnerships, it's important that you let them know how much you appreciate them and that you appreciate their work. Here are a few resources that you might enjoy. There is a new ACTE Techniques, the April 2014 copy of Techniques has a great article in it about CTE and the economy that you might be interested in. So unless you have a quick question that you want to type in to the chat area, I would just like to thank you very, very much for being part of this presentation, and get out there and make those connections with business and industry. Thank you.